The first drop of Wolfsbane hit Lyra's skin like liquid fire. She couldn't scream. Not yet. Her body seized, muscles locking as the poison burned through cloth, through flesh, straight to the bond with her wolf. The second drop fell. Then the third. By the fourth, her knees gave out. The scream ripped from her throat, raw, broken, hopeless. The Thornwood pack watched. Silent. Satisfied. Her stepfather, Beta Garrick Thorn, held the vial like a priest with holy water. His face was calm. Cold. Empty of mercy. Mistakes like you, he said, his voice cutting through her agony, should never have existed. They dumped her body at the border. Left her to die in the dirt. Alone. Forgotten. But she didn't die. Because at the moment her heart was about to stop, he found her. The deadly alpha no one dared cross. The billionaire wolf who'd sworn never to take a mate. And when his silver eyes locked on hers, when his hand touched her poisoned skin, everything changed. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel, ***. Before we dive into this absolutely heart-wrenching story tonight, I just want to say, **wow**, thank you for being here. Seriously. Whether you're watching from your cozy bed in California, sipping tea in London, or sneaking this in during your lunch break in Sydney, **you** are the reason I get to share these stories. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing you all connect in the comments. It's like our own little pack, right? And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next in this story. This one's going to wreck you in the best way possible. Now, let's get into it. Lyra had known this was coming. Not today, specifically. Not this moment. But somewhere deep in the marrow of her bones, in the quietest, most resigned corner of her heart, she'd always known Garrick would find a way to destroy her. It had started 3 nights ago. Caden Cross, a mid-ranking enforcer with a cruel smile and hands that wandered too far, had cornered her in the kitchens after the evening meal. He'd leaned in close, his breath hot and reeking of whiskey, and told her exactly what he wanted. What he expected. Lyra had said no. It was the first time in her life she'd ever refused an order from someone above her rank. The first time she'd dared to believe, foolishly, desperately, that maybe she had the right to her own body. Her own choices. Caden had laughed. Then he'd grabbed her wrist hard enough to bruise and told her she'd regret it. He was right. By the next morning, the story had twisted. Caden claimed she'd propositioned him. That she'd tried to seduce him to climb ranks, to gain favor, to escape the low-born shame of being an Omega with no real lineage. Garrick had listened to every word with that same cold, unreadable expression he always wore when he looked at her. And then he'd smiled. "You've embarrassed this pack for the last time, Lyra," he'd said quietly. "Your mother's betrayal lives on in you. But not for much longer." Now, as the wolfsbane soaked into her skin, into her bloodstream, Lyra felt her wolf, Kira***, small and silver and the only companion she'd ever had, begin to fade. No. No, please. Not her. Not Kira**. Please, Lyra gasped, her voice breaking. She tried to lift her head, tried to meet Garrick's eyes. "Please. I didn't do anything wrong." Garrick crouched down in front of her, his face inches from hers. Up close, she could see the hatred etched into every line, every shadow. It was old hatred. Patient. The kind that had waited years to finally strike. "You existed," he said softly. "That was your crime." He poured the rest of the vial over her head. Lyra's world went white with pain. Somewhere in the haze of agony, she heard voices. Is this really necessary? She's just a kid. Beta's orders, don't question it. Her mother was a whore, what did you expect? Her mother. Elara Quinn, the woman who had loved her fiercely for 17 years, who had sung lullabies in a voice like honey, who had died whispering a secret that Lyra still didn't fully understand. I'm sorry, little moon. I'm sorry for what he'll do to you when I'm gone. But you're stronger than you know. You have to survive. Promise me you'll survive. Lyra had promised. But she was breaking that promise now, wasn't she? Her vision blurred. Her heartbeat slowed. Kira's presence, once warm and constant, flickered like a dying candle. I'm sorry, Mama. I tried, Dump her past the border, Garrick said, standing and brushing invisible dust from his hands. Let the rogues finish what the Wolfsbane started. I want no trace of her left. Two enforcers stepped forward, their faces carefully blank. They grabbed Lyra under the arms and dragged her toward the edge of the clearing, toward the thick line of trees that marked the boundary of Thornwood territory. She didn't fight. She couldn't. Her body was a broken, burning shell. Her wolf was gone, or dying. She wasn't sure which was worse. They carried her in silence, boots crunching over dead leaves, breath fogging in the cold night air. When they reached the border, they didn't hesitate. They dropped her onto the frozen ground like a sack of grain and turned back without a word. Lyra lay there, staring up at the stars. They were beautiful. She'd always loved the stars. Her mother used to tell her stories about them, about wolves who became constellations, about omegas who were chosen by the moon itself to do great things. Foolish stories, Lyra thought distantly. There's no such thing as chosen omegas. There's no such thing as happy endings, Her eyelids grew heavy. The cold seeped into her bones. And just as the darkness began to pull her under, she heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Heavy. A shadow fell across her face. Lyra forced her eyes open, expecting death. Expecting a rogue wolf to finish what Garrick started. Instead, she saw him. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Dark hair that fell just past his collar, framing a face that looked like it had been carved from stone and fury. His eyes, silver, burning, impossibly intense, locked onto hers. And in that instant, the world shifted. The air between them crackled with something ancient, something undeniable. Lyra felt it even through the poison, even through the dying embers of her wolf, a pull so strong it made her gasp. The man's expression didn't change. But his jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. Fuck, he whispered, his voice low and rough and laced with something that sounded almost like fear. He dropped to his knees beside her, and the scent of him, cedar and smoke and storm-dark nights, wrapped around her like a blanket. Who did this to you? He demanded, his hands hovering over her like he was afraid to touch her, afraid she'd shatter. Lyra tried to answer. Tried to speak. But her throat was too raw, her body too broken. The man's eyes flashed, gold now, not silver, and a growl rumbled through his chest that made the trees themselves seem to shudder. You're mine, he said, and it wasn't a question. It was a vow. A claim. A promise written in blood and starlight. He scooped her into his arms like she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. Stay with me, he ordered, his voice softer now, almost tender. Do you hear me, Omega? Stay with me. Lyra wanted to ask who he was. Wanted to ask why he cared. Wanted to ask if this was real or just a beautiful hallucination before death took her. But the darkness was pulling too hard. The last thing she heard before the world went black was his voice, fierce and desperate. "I've got you. You're safe now. No one will ever hurt you again. So, are you hooked yet? Because I'm dying to know what you think. Drop a comment below. Do you think Lyra's going to survive? Who do you think this mysterious alpha is? And what is Garrick so afraid of? Let me know your theories. And if you're loving this story so far, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, it only gets more intense from here." Lyra woke to softness. It was such a foreign sensation that for a moment, she thought she was dead. Heaven, she'd been told by the Pack's elder, was supposed to be peaceful. Soft. Warm. But then the pain hit, dull now, manageable, but still there, and she knew heaven wouldn't hurt like this. She forced her eyes open. The room around her was unlike anything she'd ever seen. High ceilings. Massive windows that let in streams of golden afternoon light. Furniture that looked hand-carved and expensive. The bed she lay in was enormous, covered in blankets so thick and plush she felt like she was floating in clouds. And sitting in a chair beside the bed, watching her with those impossible silver eyes, was him. The man from the border. He looked different in daylight. No less intimidating, if anything, the sharp planes of his face and the coiled tension in his body made him seem even more dangerous, but there was something else now. Something almost careful in the way he watched her. Like she might disappear if he blinked. "You're awake," he said, his voice low and rough, like he hadn't spoken in hours. Lyra tried to sit up. Her body protested immediately, muscles screaming, and she gasped. He was beside her in an instant, hands hovering but not quite touching. "Don't. You're still healing." "Where?" Her voice came out as barely a whisper, throat raw. "Where am I?" "My home. You're safe here." He reached for a glass of water on the nightstand, holding it out to her. "Drink." Slowly. She stared at the glass like it might be poisoned. Trust wasn't something she had in abundance. His jaw tightened, but he didn't push. Instead, he set the glass down and leaned back, giving her space. "My name is Darius Stormraven. I'm the Alpha of the Stormraven Coalition. You were dying when I found you at the Thornwood border 3 days ago." 3 days. "My wolf," Lyra whispered, panic suddenly clawing at her chest. "Kira, I can't feel." "She's there," Darius interrupted, his voice firm. "Weak, but alive. The Wolfsbane nearly killed her. It would have, if I hadn't gotten to you when I did." His eyes darkened. "Who did this to you?" Lyra's fingers twisted in the blankets. The memory of Garrick's cold smile, of the Pack's silent approval, made her stomach turn. "It doesn't matter," she said quietly. "It matters to me." The intensity in his voice made her look up. There was something burning in his gaze, something possessive and furious that she didn't understand. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walking to the window, his back to her. His shoulders were rigid, tension rolling off him in waves. "Because you're my mate," he said finally, his voice so low she almost didn't hear it. Lyra's heart stopped. That's not possible." "I thought the same thing." He turned to face her, and the raw vulnerability in his expression stole her breath. "I swore I'd never have a mate. Never let anyone close enough to become a weakness. But the moment I touched you..." He shook his head. "There's no denying a bond like this. You felt it too, didn't you?" She had. Even through the pain, through the poison, she'd felt the pull. That inexplicable rightness when he'd held her. But this couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to girls like her. I'm nobody, Lyra whispered. I'm just an Omega. A mistake. My own pack tried to kill me. Why would the moon goddess give someone like you a mate like me? Darius crossed the room in 3 strides and crouched beside the bed, his eyes level with hers. You are not a mistake. I don't know what poison they fed you, what lies they made you believe, but hear me now, Lyra Quinn. She startled. How do you know my name? You said it. While you were unconscious. You called for your mother. His expression softened slightly. You are not nobody. You are mine. And I protect what's mine. If you're feeling this bond as much as I am, drop a comment below. Tell me, do you believe in fated mates? Have you ever felt that instant connection with someone? I love reading your stories, so don't be shy. Over the next week, Lyra learned what it meant to be cared for. Darius had a doctor, a quiet, kind woman named Dr. Nora Ashford, check on her twice a day. Nora never asked questions about the scars, about the Wolfsbane burns, about the evidence of years of neglect written across Lyra's too-thin frame. She simply treated her with gentle efficiency and promised that with time, she'd be whole again. Darius himself was complicated. He kept his distance most of the time, as if afraid his presence might overwhelm her. But Lyra would catch him watching from doorways, see him pacing the halls outside her room at night when he thought she was asleep. He brought her meals himself, extravagant spreads that made her eyes sting because no one had ever cared if she ate before. You need to regain your strength, he'd say gruffly, setting the tray down. Then he'd leave before she could thank him. But there were moments, small, stolen moments, when the walls came down. Like the night she woke screaming from a nightmare, and he was there instantly, sitting on the edge of her bed, his hand carefully, tentatively covering hers. You're safe, he murmured, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I promise you, Lyra. No one will touch you here. Why are you doing this? She asked, tears streaming down her face. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything, he said simply. You're my second chance. I need you to heal first. To be ready. Ready for what? His eyes met hers, and the hunger in them made her breath catch. For me to properly claim you. To make you my Luna. To show the entire world that you belong to me. But not everyone in Darius's world was pleased about Lyra's presence. Zane Blackwater, Darius's second-in-command, made his opinions clear the first time they met. He was tall, built like a fighter, with dark eyes that assessed Lyra like she was a threat. An Omega, he said flatly, leaning against the doorframe of the sitting room where Lyra had finally been allowed to leave her bedroom. You brought an Omega into our territory. Do you have any idea what the other coalitions will think? I don't give a damn what they think, Darius said coldly. You should. We've built something here, Darius. A coalition of rogues and outcasts that actually works. Bringing in a mate, especially a weak Omega from a pack that clearly wanted her dead, makes us look vulnerable. Lyra flinched at the word weak. Darius's growl filled the room, low and warning. Watch your tone. Zane raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes stayed hard. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. She's a liability. She's my mate, Darius snarled. That makes her your Luna. And if I hear you speak about her like that again, Zane, we're going to have a problem. Zane stared at him for a long moment, then nodded curtly and left. Lyra's hands trembled in her lap. He's right, isn't he? I am a liability. No. Darius moved to sit beside her, his presence warm and solid. You're not. Zane is protective. He's been with me since the beginning, and he doesn't trust easily. But he'll come around. And if he doesn't? Then he'll learn to keep his mouth shut. Darius's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers with surprising gentleness. You belong here, Lyra. With me. Don't ever doubt that. Everything changed the night of the coalition meeting. Darius had tried to keep Lyra away from it, told her she should rest, that she wasn't ready yet, but she'd insisted. She was tired of hiding. Tired of being treated like fragile glass. She needed to see what his world looked like. The meeting hall was packed with wolves from different rogue packs, all of them bound together under Darius's leadership. They were a strange mix, warriors with scarred faces, families with young children, loners who'd been cast out of traditional packs. But they all watched Darius with respect. With loyalty. Until Lyra walked in beside him. The room went silent. She felt every eye on her, felt the weight of their judgment, their curiosity, their suspicion. Her hand tightened on Darius's arm, and he covered it with his own, a clear message of protection. This is Lyra Quinn, Darius announced, his voice carrying through the hall. She is my mate. You're Luna. And she will be treated with the respect that position demands. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some looked shocked. Others looked pleased. But a few, especially the older, more traditional wolves, looked furious. An older man near the front stood. Roman Voss, one of the coalition's senior fighters. With all due respect, Alpha and Omega Luna. That's unconventional. I don't recall asking for your approval, Roman. The coalition has enemies, Roman pressed. Powerful ones. A Luna needs to be strong. Capable of defending herself and this pack. No offense to the girl, but... enough. Darius's voice dropped into Alpha command, and Roman sat down immediately, though his expression remained sour. Lyra wanted to sink through the floor. Wanted to disappear. This was exactly what she'd feared, being a burden, an embarrassment, a weakness in a world that didn't tolerate weakness. But before she could pull away, before she could run, the doors to the meeting hall burst open. A scout stumbled in, bleeding from a wound on his shoulder, his eyes wild with panic. Alpha, he gasped. Thornwood Pack. They're here. At the border. They're demanding, he looked at Lyra, and his face paled. They're demanding we return the Omega thief. Lyra's blood turned to ice. Darius went utterly still beside her. When he spoke, his voice was death itself. What did you just say? Beta Garrick Thorn is at the border with 24 wolves. He says the Omega stole valuable pack property before she fled. He's invoking interpack law. He wants her returned for trial. That's a lie, Lyra whispered, her voice shaking. I didn't steal anything. I didn't. Darius's hand cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. I know. I believe you. He turned to the scout. Tell Garrick Thorn that he can go to hell. She's under my protection now. Alpha, if we refuse, it could mean war. Then it means war. The room erupted. Voices shouting, wolves arguing, chaos spreading like wildfire. But Lyra barely heard any of it. Because through the noise, through the panic, one thought echoed in her mind with crystal clarity. Asterisk Garrick found me. And he won't stop until I'm dead, asterisk. The war room was exactly what it sounded like, a place where battles were planned, strategies forged, and fates decided. Lyra had never been in a room like this. Maps covered every wall, marked with territories, borders, and symbols she didn't understand. A massive table dominated the center, surrounded by Darius's most trusted advisors. The air was thick with tension, with barely contained violence. And at the head of the table stood Darius, every inch the deadly alpha the rumors claimed him to be. We have three options, Zane said, his finger tracing the map spread before them. 1. We hand her over and avoid conflict entirely. Not an option, Darius growled. Zane's jaw tightened, but he continued. 2. We negotiate. Find out what Garrick really wants and see if there's a way to. He wants me dead, Lyra interrupted quietly. Every head in the room turned toward her. She stood near the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, feeling small and out of place. That's what he wants. That's what he's always wanted. Theo Kane, the coalition strategist, leaned forward. Why? What did you do to make a beta hate you enough to invoke Interpack law? I existed. Lyra's voice was bitter. My mother, before she died, she confessed to an affair. Garrick thinks I'm the result of that betrayal. He's hated me my entire life, but he couldn't kill me outright, not without reason. So he waited. Twisted a situation until he had an excuse. She looked at Darius, her eyes burning. The Wolfsbane wasn't punishment. It was an execution. He thought I was dead. Finding out I survived. She swallowed hard. He can't let me live. Not if there's even a chance I carry my biological father's bloodline. Why would that matter? Zane asked, his tone less hostile now, more curious. I don't know, Lyra admitted. My mother never told me who he was. Just that Garrick and he were once best friends. That the betrayal broke something in Garrick that could never be fixed. Darius's hands flattened on the table, his knuckles white. Then we go with option 3. We fortify our borders. We prepare for war if necessary. And we send Garrick a message, Lyra is mine. She's under the protection of the Stormraven Coalition. And if he wants her, he'll have to go through me first. That's suicide, Roman said bluntly. Thornwood has alliances. Other packs will see this as you harboring a criminal. We'll be isolated. Vulnerable. Then we make new alliances, Darius shot back. Stronger ones. With who? The Council won't back us, not over an Omega. Roman's words were harsh, but there was genuine concern in his eyes. Darius, I know she's your mate. I understand what that means. But you have to think about the coalition. About the hundreds of wolves who depend on you for safety. I am thinking about them, Darius said coldly. I'm thinking about what kind of leader I'd be if I handed over an innocent woman to a man who tried to murder her. What message would that send? That we only protect the strong. That mates are disposable if politics get complicated. He shook his head. No. We stand our ground. Lyra felt her chest tighten. He was risking everything. For her. A girl he'd known for barely 2 weeks. Darius, she said softly. Maybe I should just go. If it prevents war. No. He was across the room in seconds, his hands gripping her shoulders, his silver eyes blazing. Don't even think it. You're not going back there. You're not sacrificing yourself. Not for me, not for anyone. But your people will understand that their alpha doesn't abandon his mate. His voice gentled, though the intensity remained. Lyra, you need to understand something. You're not just some girl I'm protecting out of obligation. You're mine. The bond between us, it's not something I can ignore or set aside. And even if it was. His thumb brushed her cheek. Even if there was no bond, I'd still fight for you. Because you deserve to be fought for. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she blinked them back. I don't know how to let someone care about me. Then learn. A small, almost tender smile tugged at his lips. We have time. But time was a luxury they didn't have. 2 days after the meeting, Garrick sent an emissary, a young wolf named Ethan Cross, who looked terrified to be standing at the Stormraven gates. Darius received him in the main hall, Lyra at his side despite his initial protests. She needed to face this. Needed to stop hiding. Ethan kept his eyes carefully averted from Lyra, his hands trembling as he held out a sealed letter. Beta Garrick Thorne sends his regards, Alpha Stormraven. He wishes to negotiate. Darius tore open the letter, his expression darkening with every word he read. When he finished, he crushed the paper in his fist. What does it say? Lyra asked, though part of her didn't want to know. He's offering a trade, Darius said, his voice dangerously quiet. He'll drop the criminal charges and leave us in peace, if I agree to dissolve the mate bond and return you within 3 days. The room went cold. That's impossible, Zane said. Mate bonds can't be dissolved. Not without killing both parties. Exactly. Darius's eyes were pure gold now, his wolf rising to the surface. He's not offering peace. He's offering me a choice, watch you die, or go to war. Lyra felt the blood drain from her face. There has to be another way. Maybe if I spoke to him. Absolutely not. Darius, please. I said no. His voice cracked through the hall like thunder, and Lyra flinched. Immediately, his expression softened, regret flashing across his face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He exhaled roughly, running a hand through his hair. Lyra, you don't understand what he is. What he's capable of. I've heard stories about Garrick Thorne. He's ruthless. Calculating. If you go near him, mate bond or not, I won't be able to protect you. Then what do we do? Darius looked at Ethan, who was trying to make himself invisible. Tell your beta that Alpha Darius Stormraven does not negotiate with cowards who poison helpless Omegas. Tell him that Lyra Quinn is under my permanent protection as my mate and future Luna. And tell him. His smile was all teeth. If he wants war, I'll give him one he'll never forget. Ethan paled, nodded quickly, and practically ran from the hall. The moment he was gone, Lyra turned to Darius. You can't do this. You can't risk everything for me. Watch me. Darius. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Do you feel it? He whispered. The bond between us? It's not just attraction, Lyra. It's not just chemistry. It's fate. The moon goddess herself chose us for each other. And I will burn down the entire world before I let anyone take you from me. Her breath hitched. I'm scared. I know. So am I. His admission shocked her. I've never had something to lose before. Never had someone I couldn't bear to live without. It terrifies me. His hands cupped her face. But it also makes me stronger. You make me stronger. I don't know how. You don't have to know. Just, stay. Stay with me. Let me protect you. Let me, he hesitated, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. Let me love you. The words hung between them, heavy and impossible and beautiful. You barely know me, Lyra whispered. I know you're brave. I know you survived things that would have broken most wolves. I know you're kind despite everything you've been through. I know your laugh sounds like music and your smile could bring me to my knees. His thumb traced her lower lip. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life learning everything else. Lyra's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever seen her like this. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to be someone's mate. Someone's. Luna. Neither do I, Darius said with a small smile. We'll figure it out together. The attack came at dawn. Lyra was in the gardens, a beautiful space behind the main house where flowers bloomed despite the approaching winter. Nora had suggested fresh air might help with her recovery, and Darius had reluctantly agreed, posting guards at every entrance. But guards meant nothing when the enemy came from above. The first wolf dropped from the trees like a shadow, teeth bared, going straight for Lyra's throat. She screamed, stumbling backward, her weak wolf rising instinctively but too slow, too damaged to fully shift. The attacker never reached her. Darius materialized between them, his massive black wolf form slamming into the assassin with bone-crushing force. They hit the ground in a tangle of fur and fangs, snarling and snapping. Two more wolves descended from the trees. Lyra tried to run, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. Fear locked her in place as one of the attackers lunged. And was intercepted by Zane, who fought with brutal efficiency, his jaws closing around the enemy's throat. The third wolf circled Lyra, eyes gleaming with predatory focus. She recognized him. Caden Cross. The enforcer who tried to force himself on her. The one whose lies had started all of this. "Hello, little Omega," Caden sneered, his voice distorted by his partial shift. "Beta Garrick sends his regards." "Stay away from me," Lyra warned, though her voice shook. "Or what? You'll scream for your alpha?" Caden laughed. "He can't save you. Not from what's coming." He lunged. Lyra threw up her arms instinctively, and felt something break inside her. Not painful. Not destructive. But like a dam bursting, like chains snapping, like a door she'd never known existed suddenly flying open. Power flooded through her veins. Her eyes snapped open, glowing pure silver, and when she thrust her hands forward, Caden was thrown backward by an invisible force, slamming into a tree with a sickening crack. Everything went still. Darius, back in human form and breathing hard, blood on his knuckles, stared at her with wide eyes. Zane looked equally shocked. Even the remaining assassins hesitated. Lyra looked down at her hands, trembling and glowing with faint silver light. "What?" she whispered. "What did I just do?" Before anyone could answer, Caden, broken but alive, started laughing. It was a horrible, wheezing sound. "Too late," he rasped. "Garrick knew. He knew what you were. That's why he wanted you dead." He coughed, blood speckling his lips. "You're not just an Omega, little girl. You're a Prime. The first one born in 3 generations. And when the council finds out..." Another horrible laugh. "They'll come for you. They'll all come for you." Lyra's legs gave out. Darius caught her before she hit the ground, holding her tight against his chest. "Get him out of here," he ordered Zane. "Lock him down. I want answers." "Darius," Lyra gasped, clutching his shirt. "What's a Prime? What does that mean?" His expression was grim as he lifted her into his arms. "It means everything just changed. Okay everyone, drop your thoughts in the comments right now. What do you think a Prime Omega is? Why is everyone so afraid of Lyra's power? I'm reading every single comment, so don't hold back. I want to hear your wildest guesses. And if you're not subscribed yet, seriously, subscribe. Because what I'm about to reveal is going to flip this entire story on its head. The council chamber felt like a tomb. Lyra sat in a chair that was too big for her, wrapped in a blanket despite the fire roaring in the hearth. She couldn't stop shaking. Couldn't stop seeing the silver light that had erupted from her hands, couldn't stop hearing Caden's wheezing laughter echoing in her mind. Asterisk Prime. You're a Prime, asterisk. Darius stood across the room with his inner circle, Zane, Theo, Roman, and Dr. Nora, who'd abandoned her usual calm demeanor for something closer to awe and fear. "Explain it to me," Darius demanded, his voice tight. What exactly is a Prime Omega? Nora folded her hands, her expression grave. Prime Omegas they're legends, mostly. The last confirmed one died over 70 years ago. They're Omegas born with an ancestral gift, the ability to amplify pack bonds, to heal territories that have been corrupted, to influence the very nature of wolf hierarchy. She paused. They're also incredibly rare. And incredibly valuable. Valuable how? Lyra whispered. A Prime Omega bonded to an Alpha doesn't just create a mate pair, Nora continued. It creates a power nexus. The Alpha becomes stronger, nearly invincible in their own territory. Their pack prospers. Their bloodline becomes legendary. Throughout history, wars have been fought over Prime Omegas. Entire packs have been slaughtered trying to claim them. The room fell silent. That's why Garrick wanted you dead, Theo said slowly, piecing it together. If your biological father carried Prime bloodline, if that's what your mother's affair was really about, then Garrick wasn't just dealing with betrayal. He was dealing with the fact that you represented everything he could never have. Power he could never access. But he's a beta, Zane interjected. Even if he'd raised her as his own, he couldn't have bonded with her as a mate. No, Roman said darkly. But he could have sold her. Traded her to an Alpha willing to pay the right price. Prime Omegas are worth more than gold, more than territory. They're worth kingdoms. Lyra felt bile rise in her throat. So I'm just a commodity. Something to be traded and sold. No. Darius was beside her in an instant, kneeling so they were eye level. You're my mate. You're a person. And I don't give a damn what ancient bloodline runs through your veins, you belong to yourself first, and to me second. No one else. But if what they're saying is true, Lyra said, her voice breaking, then everyone will come for me. Not just Garrick. Everyone. Let them come. Darius, you can't fight the entire world. Watch me. This is bigger than you protecting me from one vengeful beta. She stood, the blanket falling away, her hands shaking. If the council finds out what I am, they'll demand I be turned over to them. They'll say I'm too dangerous, too valuable to be claimed by a rogue Alpha with no official pack status. Then we make my status official, Darius said firmly. We apply for council recognition. We legitimize the coalition. That takes months, Zane said. Years, even. And they'll never approve it, not with a Prime Omega at stake. They'll drag it out, find excuses, and then they'll send enforcers to take her by force. Darius's jaw clenched. Then we run. We take Lyra somewhere they can't find her. There is nowhere, Nora said quietly. If her power is awakening, every Alpha within 1,000 miles will sense it eventually. The pull of a Prime Omega it's intoxicating. Irresistible. They won't be able to help themselves. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the walls closing in. So what do I do? Just wait to be claimed by whoever's strong enough to take me. Over my dead body, Darius snarled. That might be exactly what happens. Lyra's voice cracked, tears finally spilling over. Don't you see? I'm going to get you killed. I'm going to destroy everything you've built. Everyone who depends on you will suffer because you refuse to let me go. I can't. The rawness in Darius's voice silenced the room. I physically cannot let you go, Lyra. The bond, it's not just emotional. It's biological. Chemical. Spiritual. Asking me to give you up is like asking me to cut out my own heart and keep walking. It's impossible. Then we're both doomed, Lyra whispered. The next 48 hours were a nightmare. Word spread fast. too fast. Caden had been carrying a long-range communicator when he'd attacked. He'd broadcast everything before Zane had subdued him. By nightfall, 3 different Alpha delegations had arrived at the Stormraven borders, all demanding an audience. All wanting to verify the rumors about the Prime Omega. Darius refused them all. But the pressure was mounting. His own coalition members were beginning to question whether protecting one Omega, even the Alpha's mate, was worth potential annihilation. Lyra heard them whispering in the hallways, saw the fear in their eyes when she passed. She'd become a liability overnight. A beautiful, powerful, dangerous liability. She spent most of her time locked in Darius's private quarters, which felt less like protection and more like a prison. He barely left her side, as if afraid she'd disappear the moment he looked away. "You need to sleep," Lyra said softly one night, watching him pace the room like a caged animal. "You haven't rested in days." "I can't." He ran his hands through his hair, his exhaustion evident in every line of his body. "Every time I close my eyes, I see you being taken from me. I see you hurt, afraid, alone." His voice broke. "I can't lose you, Lyra. I can't." She went to him, placing her hands on his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath her palms. "Then we need to be smart about this. Hiding isn't working. Running won't work. So what's left?" "I don't know," he admitted, and the vulnerability in those 3 words nearly undid her. "Maybe." She hesitated. "Maybe we need to face this head-on. Go to the council ourselves. Tell them the truth. Ask for their protection under mate bond law. They'll separate us. Claim you need to be evaluated to determine if our bond is genuine or if it's just your prime nature manipulating me." "Is it?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "Manipulating you, I mean. How do you know what you feel is real and not just some biological imperative because of what I am?" Darius's hands cupped her face, his silver eyes blazing. "Because I felt the bond before I knew what you were. Because when I look at you, I don't see power or status or political advantage, I see the woman who fought to survive when everyone wanted her dead. I see the person who worries about my coalition even though they haven't fully accepted her. I see you, Lyra. Just you." A sob caught in her throat. "I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're the only reason I have anything worth keeping." He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of everything they couldn't say. Lyra melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her body fitting against his like they were 2 pieces of the same whole. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Darius rested his forehead against hers. "We'll figure this out," he promised. "Together. I don't care if I have to fight the entire council, every Alpha in the territory, and the moon goddess herself. You're mine, Lyra. And I'm never letting you go." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Liam Cross, Caden's younger brother and one of the coalition's newer members, requested an audience with Darius. He was 19, gangly, with the kind of nervous energy that suggested he was perpetually expecting to be hit. "I know something," Liam said, his eyes darting between Darius and Lyra. They'd agreed to hear him out in Darius's office, though Zane stood guard at the door, just in case. "About your father. Your biological father." Lyra's breath caught. "What?" "My father, he's dead now, but he used to tell stories. About Garrick and his best friend before everything fell apart." Liam swallowed hard. His name was Nathan Silvermane. He was an Omega. One of the last known carriers of the Prime bloodline. The room went deathly quiet. "Nathan and Garrick grew up together," Liam continued. "Best friends since childhood. But Nathan had something Garrick never could, he had the bloodline, the gift. When they were in their 20s, Nathan fell in love with Garrick's mate. Your mother, Elara. Wait, Lyra said, her mind reeling. Garrick's mate? My mother was mated to Garrick. Liam nodded. According to my father, it was a political arrangement. Garrick was ambitious, wanted to rise in pack ranks. Elara came from a good family. But the bond was never right. Never strong. And then Nathan came back from traveling abroad, and he shrugged helplessly. The way my father told it, it was like watching two stars collide. Nathan and Elara couldn't stay away from each other. So they had an affair, Darius said flatly. More than that. They tried to run away together. To break Elara's bond with Garrick. But you can't break a mate bond without both parties agreeing, and Garrick. Liam's voice dropped. He refused. He was furious. Humiliated. He told the pack that Nathan had tried to use his prime abilities to seduce Elara, to steal her away through manipulation. Did he? Lyra asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. My father didn't think so. He said Nathan was gentle. Kind. That he would never use his gift like that. But the pack believed Garrick. Nathan was exiled. Disappeared. No one knows what happened to him after that. And Elara? Lyra whispered. She was pregnant. With you. Garrick kept her bound in the mate bond, raised you as his own in public, but... Liam looked at Lyra with something like pity. He never forgave her. And he never stopped hating you for existing. Darius's hand found Lyra's, squeezing tight. Where is Nathan now? That's the thing. Liam leaned forward. About 6 months ago, there were rumors. Reports of a powerful Omega living in the Northern Territories, isolated, protected by a small group of loyal wolves. Some people think it's him. Think Nathan Silvermane is still alive. Hope flared in Lyra's chest, painful and bright. If he is, if I could find him. He might know how to help you, Darius finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. If anyone understands what it means to be a prime Omega, what you're capable of, it would be him. It's a long shot, Zane warned from the doorway. The Northern Territories are wild. Unclaimed. Dangerous. Everything is dangerous right now, Lyra said, standing. But if there's even a chance my father is alive, that he can help us understand what I am and how to protect ourselves. She looked at Darius. We have to try. Darius studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We leave at dawn. Small group, just us, Zane, and Theo for navigation. The fewer people who know where we're going, the better. What about the alphas at the border? Zane asked. They'll notice you're gone. Let them notice. By the time they figure out where we went, we'll already have our answers. Are you ready for this journey? Because I am living for this plot twist. Drop a comment if you think Nathan is still alive, and tell me what you think he'll be like. Plus, subscribe if you haven't already. We're in the home stretch now, and you do not want to miss the final parts. That night, as they prepared to leave, Lyra found herself standing on the balcony of Darius's quarters, staring up at the moon. She heard him approach before she felt him. His presence was as familiar to her now as her own heartbeat. Having second thoughts, he asked softly, coming to stand beside her. 1,000 of them. She smiled sadly. What if we don't find him? What if he is alive but wants nothing to do with me? What if? What if we find him, and he gives us exactly what we need to build the life we want? Darius countered. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You're allowed to hope, Lyra. After everything you've been through, you're allowed to believe things might actually work out. I don't know how to do that, she admitted. Hope has only ever hurt me. Then let me hope for both of us. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, surrounding her with warmth and safety. I meant what I said before. I love you. Not because of what you are, but because of who you are. And whether we find your father or not, whether the council comes after us or not, whether the entire world tries to tear us apart, I will spend every day of my life fighting to keep you safe and loved. Lyra tilted her head up, tears streaming down her face. I love you too. I think I have since the moment you found me at the border. Since you looked at me like I was worth saving. You are worth saving, Darius said fiercely. You're worth everything. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promises. When they finally pulled apart, Lyra felt something shift inside her. Not her power this time. Something deeper. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had a future. Like she was more than just a mistake waiting to be erased. She had Darius. She had hope. And tomorrow, she might find the father she'd never known. It wasn't much. But it was enough to make her believe in possibilities. Come on, Darius said, taking her hand. We should rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. As they walked back inside together, neither of them noticed the shadow watching from the tree line. Or the way it smiled before disappearing into the night. The Northern Territories were everything the rumors promised, wild, untamed, and hostile. They'd been traveling for 3 days, moving through dense forests and treacherous mountain passes. Darius led the way in wolf form, his black coat gleaming in the filtered sunlight. Zane and Theo flanked them, constantly scanning for threats. And Lyra, still too weak to fully shift, rode on Darius's back, her fingers buried in his thick fur. She felt the change in the air before she saw anything. A subtle shift in pressure, like the world was holding its breath. Darius stopped abruptly, his ears pricked forward. Zane and Theo immediately went on alert, their bodies coiled and ready to fight. And then they appeared. Wolves emerged from the shadows, 6 of them, moving with the fluid coordination of a trained unit. They were larger than average, well-fed, clearly not rogues. They formed a semicircle, blocking the path forward. The largest one, a silver wolf with knowing amber eyes, shifted smoothly into human form. He was older, maybe late 40s, with silver-threaded dark hair and a face that made Lyra's breath catch. Because she'd seen that face before. In mirrors. In reflections. In her own features. You've come a long way, daughter, the man said, his voice rough with emotion. I wondered if you ever would. Lyra slid off Darius's back as he shifted back to human form. Her legs trembled as she stood, staring at the man who could only be one person. Nathan, she whispered. Nathan Silvermane. His smile was sad and warm and heartbreaking. Hello, Lyra. I've waited 17 years to meet you. They were brought to a compound hidden deep in the forest, a collection of cabins built around a central clearing. It was small but well-maintained, clearly the home of wolves who'd chosen isolation over pack politics. Nathan led them to the largest cabin, waving off his guards with a gesture that spoke of absolute authority. Inside, the space was cozy, filled with books, comfortable furniture, and a lingering scent of herbs and wood smoke. Sit, Nathan said gently. Please. I imagine you have questions. A few thousand, Lyra managed, sinking onto the couch. Darius sat beside her immediately, his hand finding hers, his presence solid and grounding. Nathan studied them both, his gaze lingering on their joined hands. You're mated. Good. That's very good. Why? Darius asked, his tone carefully neutral. Why is that good? Because a prime omega without a mate bond is vulnerable in ways you can't imagine, Nathan said heavily. Our power, it calls to alphas. It's not conscious manipulation, just biology. Instinct. An unmated prime is like a beacon, broadcasting our presence to every dominant wolf within range. But a mated prime? He gestured to their hands. The bond creates a barrier. It tells other alphas that the prime is claimed, protected, off limits. It won't stop all of them, some will still try to challenge for you, but it makes you significantly safer. How do you know all this? Lyra asked. If prime omegas are so rare. Because I've lived it, Nathan said simply. I awakened my abilities when I was 16. Spent the next decade running from alphas who wanted to claim me, packs who wanted to sell me, councils who wanted to control me. His expression darkened. Until I met Garrick. Lyra leaned forward. Liam Cross told us some of it. About you and Garrick being friends. About my mother. Ilara. Nathan's voice softened with old grief. She was the kindest person I'd ever met. Mated to Garrick through arrangement, not choice. And when we met. He shook his head. I tried to stay away. Tried to respect the bond she had with Garrick. But prime omegas, we feel connections differently. Deeper. And what I felt with Ilara, it was real. It was true. More real than any arranged mate bond. So you had an affair, Darius said, not quite judgment in his tone. Just fact. We fell in love, Nathan corrected quietly. And yes, that love resulted in you, Lyra. When Ilara told me she was pregnant, I wanted to run away with her. Build a life far from pack politics and Garrick's ambition. But he refused to release the bond. And without his consent. Nathan's hands clenched. I was exiled. Accused of using my prime abilities to seduce his mate, a convenient lie that the pack believed because they were already afraid of what I was. And my mother? Lyra's voice cracked. What happened to her? Garrick kept her. Kept you. I tried, gods, I tried to find a way to reach you. To be part of your life. But Garrick had connections, power. He made sure I could never get close. Nathan's eyes glistened. I heard about what happened 2 weeks ago. That he tried to kill you with Wolfsbane. I was preparing to come for you myself when I heard you'd been found by an alpha. He looked at Darius. By this alpha. And I'm grateful. More than you'll ever know. Darius inclined his head. She's my mate. Protecting her isn't a favor, it's everything. Nathan smiled. Good answer. But protection alone won't be enough. Not now that her power is awakening. The council will come for her. So will ambitious alphas. You need more than just strength, you need knowledge. Strategy. That's why we're here, Lyra said. I don't understand what I am. What I can do. How to control it. When Caden attacked me, power just erupted. I threw him backward without touching him. Telekinesis is one manifestation, Nathan explained. But prime abilities are varied. Some of us can heal. Some can influence pack bonds, strengthen or weaken them. Some can sense emotions, manipulate them. Your specific gifts will reveal themselves as you practice. Practice? Lyra blinked. How do you practice something like this? I can teach you, Nathan said. If you'll let me. I can show you how to control your power, how to shield yourself from unwanted attention, how to use your abilities as protection rather than vulnerability. Hope flared in Lyra's chest. How long would it take? Weeks. Maybe months for full mastery. But the basics, shielding, control, I could teach you in days. Darius stiffened beside her. We don't have days. Multiple alpha delegations are camped at our borders. The council has been contacted. It's only a matter of time before. The door burst open. Theo stumbled in, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, his eyes wild. Alpha. We've got incoming. Multiple packs, at least 50 wolves, surrounding the compound. Nathan was on his feet instantly, his calm shattering. How did they find us? Someone followed us, Zane snarled, appearing behind Theo. Someone we trusted. Lyra's blood turned to ice. Who? Liam Cross, Zane said, his voice dripping with fury. The little bastard was playing us from the beginning. Fed us just enough truth to make us believe him, then led Garrick and half the territory straight to us. No, Lyra whispered. No, he wouldn't. He's Caden's brother, Darius said grimly, standing and pulling Lyra up with him. Blood loyalty trumps everything else for some wolves. He turned to Nathan. Can you fight? I have 6 wolves against 50, Nathan said. But yes. We'll fight. Make it 8 wolves, Darius corrected. And we're not going down easy. The battle erupted with savage intensity. Lyra was rushed to the safest cabin, reinforced, defensible, with Nathan's mate, a fierce woman named Ivy who carried 2 wicked-looking blades and made it clear she'd gut anyone who got through the door. But through the windows, Lyra could see the chaos unfolding. Darius in his massive black wolf form, tearing through enemies like they were made of paper. Zane fighting back-to-back with Theo, their coordination flawless. Nathan, gods, Nathan was terrifying. His prime abilities manifested as pure force, sending attacking wolves flying with gestures, creating barriers of compressed air that enemies slammed into. But there were too many. For every wolf they took down, 2 more appeared. Lyra recognized Thornwood pack wolves, but there were others too, mercenaries, probably, drawn by the promise of capturing a prime Omega. And then she saw him. Garrick Thorne, in human form, striding through the battle like he owned it. His eyes locked onto the cabin where Lyra hid, and his smile was cold and victorious. Come out, little mistake, he called, his voice carrying over the sounds of fighting. Come out, or I'll kill everyone you care about. Starting with your precious Alpha. As if to punctuate his threat, 3 wolves tackled Darius, dragging him down. He fought viciously, but they had him pinned, jaws at his throat. No. Lyra screamed. Ivy grabbed her arm. Don't. It's what he wants. But Lyra was beyond reason. Beyond fear. She shoved the door open and stepped out into the clearing, her hands raised. Stop, she shouted. Stop. I'll come with you. Just let them go. The fighting paused. Every head turned toward her. Garrick's smile widened. There's my obedient little Omega. Come here. Now. Lyra took a step forward. And felt Darius's roar of denial shake her bones. He threw off the wolves holding him with impossible strength, shifting mid-movement, blood streaming from multiple wounds. Don't you dare, he snarled, putting himself between her and Garrick. Don't you fucking dare surrender to him. He'll kill you, Lyra said, tears streaming down her face. Darius, please. Then he kills me. But I will not watch you sacrifice yourself. Darius's silver eyes blazed. You are not a mistake. You are not a commodity. You are mine, and I will die before I let him take you. How touching, Garrick sneered. He raised his hand, and the wolves around him tensed, ready to attack. Kill the Alpha. Bring me the Prime. They lunged. And Lyra felt something inside her break. Not in pain. Not in defeat. In awakening. Power exploded from her core, pure, unstoppable, ancient. It radiated outward in a wave of silver light that sent every attacking wolf flying backward. They hit the ground hard, stunned, unable to rise. Lyra's eyes blazed pure white silver, her hair lifting in an unseen wind. When she spoke, her voice echoed with something beyond human, beyond wolf. Asterisk asterisk enough, asterisk asterisk. The word reverberated through the clearing, through the forest, through the very ground beneath their feet. Every wolf, friend and foe, felt the weight of it, the command that came from something primal and undeniable. Garrick staggered, his eyes wide with shock and terror. Lyra walked forward, each step measured, deliberate. The power hummed through her veins, responding to her will for the first time. She understood now. Understood what she was. What she could do. You wanted to kill me because you were afraid, she said, stopping in front of Garrick. Afraid that I would expose your weakness. Your inadequacy. Your shame. You're an abomination, Garrick spat, but his voice shook. No, Lyra said softly. I'm what you could never be. Strong. Loved. Free. She leaned closer. You tried to burn me with Wolfsbane. To erase me. To pretend I never existed. But I survived. I thrived. And now. Her smile was sharp. Now I'm claiming my birthright. She raised her hand, and Garrick dropped to his knees, his body obeying a command he couldn't resist. I could kill you, Lyra whispered. One thought, and your heart stops. That's what a Prime Omega can do when threatened. Did you know that, Garrick? Did you know that all this time, you were hunting something that could end you with a whisper? Garrick's face was white with terror. But Lyra lowered her hand, the power receding to a steady thrum beneath her skin. I'm not going to kill you, she said. Because unlike you, I'm not a monster. But you will leave. You will return to Thornwood Pack and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that Lyra Quinn, Prime Omega and mate to Alpha Darius Stormraven, is not to be touched. Not to be threatened. Not to be hunted. Her eyes flashed. And if any wolf, from any pack, comes for me again, I won't be merciful. She gestured, and the invisible force holding Garrick released. He scrambled backward, his dignity shattered, his power broken. Run, Lyra said quietly. Garrick ran. His wolves followed, limping and beaten, their tails between their legs. The moment they were gone, Lyra's knees buckled. Darius caught her before she hit the ground, holding her tight against his chest. I've got you, he murmured. I've got you, love. You were incredible. I was terrified, Lyra gasped, clutching his shirt. I still am. I know. But you stood anyway. He pulled back enough to look at her, his eyes shining with pride and love and awe. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Nathan approached slowly, his expression one of profound respect. That was masterful, daughter. Your mother would be so proud. Lyra looked at him, this father she'd just met, this man who'd loved her mother enough to sacrifice everything, and felt something settle in her chest. Will you teach me, she asked. Teach me to control this? To use it to protect instead of destroy? Nathan smiled, tears streaming down his weathered face. It would be my honor. 3 months later. The Stormraven estate had never looked more beautiful. Lanterns hung from every tree, casting golden light across the grounds. Flowers, carefully cultivated by Lyra herself, bloomed in impossible abundance, filling the air with sweetness. And wolves from a dozen different packs mingled in the gardens, talking and laughing without the usual territorial tension. Because tonight wasn't about politics or power. Tonight was about love. Lyra stood in front of a full-length mirror, staring at her reflection. The dress was simple but elegant, white with silver embroidery that caught the light. Her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and for the first time in her life, she looked happy. "You're stunning," Nora said from behind her, adjusting the final details. "Darius is going to lose his mind when he sees you." "I still can't believe this is happening," Lyra admitted softly. 6 months ago, I was being poisoned and left for dead. And now? Now you're about to be officially recognized as Luna of the Stormraven Coalition and mate to one of the most powerful alphas in the territory, Nora finished with a grin. "It's a bit of a glow-up." Lyra laughed, a sound that came easier now, more natural. "Just a bit." The door opened, and Nathan stepped in, looking distinguished in formal attire. His eyes misted when he saw her. "Your mother would have loved this moment," he said quietly. "She always knew you were destined for great things." "I wish she could be here," Lyra said, her throat tight. "She is," Nathan assured her, placing a hand over his heart. "She's always been here. And she's so proud of you. Just like I am." Lyra hugged him tight, this father who'd become such an important part of her life over the past months. He'd taught her control, helped her understand her abilities, and filled in the missing pieces of her history. More than that, he'd given her what she'd always craved, family. The ceremony was held under the full moon, traditional, but with a modern twist. Instead of the usual rigid pack hierarchy, Darius had insisted on something more inclusive. Rogues and pack wolves alike stood as witnesses, and instead of a single alpha conducting the ceremony, Nathan and Ivy shared the honor. Lyra walked down the aisle formed by wolves on both sides, her heart pounding. And at the end, waiting with an expression of pure adoration, stood Darius. He looked devastating in all black, his silver eyes locked on her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. When she reached him, he took her hands, his touch warm and grounding. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back, smiling through happy tears. Nathan cleared his throat, beginning the ceremony. "We gather under the moon to witness the bonding of two souls, two wolves, two hearts that have found each other against impossible odds." The words washed over Lyra, beautiful and sacred, but all she could focus on was Darius. The way he looked at her. The way his hands held hers like she was something precious. "Darius Stormraven," Nathan continued, "do you take Lyra Quinn as your mate, your Luna, your equal partner in all things?" "I do," Darius said, his voice steady and sure. "I take her as she is, strong, compassionate, incredible. I promise to protect her, to cherish her, to stand beside her through every challenge. I promise to love her with everything I am, for as long as I live." Lyra's tears fell freely now. "Lyra Quinn," Nathan turned to her, "do you take Darius Stormraven as your mate, your alpha, your equal partner in all things?" "I do," Lyra said, her voice clear despite the emotion. "I take him as he is, fierce, loyal, kind. I promise to trust him, to support him, to build a life with him. I promise to love him with everything I am, for as long as I live." Then by the power vested in me, and witnessed by the moon herself, I declare you mated for life. Nathan smiled. "You may seal the bond." Darius pulled her close, his hands cupping her face with infinite tenderness. "I love you," he whispered. "My mate. My Luna. My everything." "I love you too," Lyra breathed. Their kiss was soft and sweet and full of promises. Around them, the gathered wolves howled their approval, the sound rising to the moon in celebration. When they finally broke apart, both smiling, Lyra felt complete in a way she'd never imagined possible. The celebration lasted long into the night. There was food, music, dancing, and joy, pure, uncomplicated joy. Lyra found herself pulled into conversation after conversation. Wolves who'd once been suspicious now offered congratulations. Some even apologized for their initial doubts. Zane approached with a drink, his expression softer than usual. "I owe you an apology," he said without preamble. "I called you a liability. Said you'd make us weak." "I remember," Lyra said gently. "I was wrong." Zane looked her straight in the eye. "You made us stronger. United us in ways I didn't think possible. You're exactly the Luna this coalition needs." "Thank you," Lyra said, genuinely touched. "That means a lot." As the night wore on, Darius found her standing at the edge of the party, looking up at the stars. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, pulling her back against his chest. "Having fun?" he murmured against her ear. "The best time of my life," she admitted. "I keep waiting to wake up. For this to be some beautiful dream." "It's real," Darius promised. "All of it. You're really my mate. Really my Luna. Really safe and loved and home." Lyra turned in his arms, reaching up to cup his face. "I never thought I'd have this. A family. A purpose. Someone who looks at me like I hung the moon." "You did hang the moon," Darius said seriously. "At least, you did for me. Before you, everything was duty and strategy and survival. You taught me how to live again." "We saved each other," Lyra said softly. "That's what mates do." "Among other things," Darius said with a wicked grin, making her laugh. Later, when the party had wound down and most of the guests had left, Lyra stood with Nathan, Ivy, and Darius, looking out over the estate. "The council approved your application," Nathan said. "Official pack status granted. The Storm Raven Coalition is now recognized as legitimate." "That's because they're terrified of Lyra," Darius said with satisfaction. "Turns out having a Prime Omega as your Luna makes even the council think twice about causing problems. It helps that I promised not to use my abilities for political manipulation," Lyra added dryly. "Though I reserved the right to defend myself and my pack." "Smart," Ivy said approvingly. "Never give up all your leverage." "What about Garrick?" Darius asked. "Any word?" "He stepped down as Beta," Nathan said. "Last I heard, he left Thornwood Pack entirely. Exiled himself rather than face the shame of what happened here." Lyra felt a pang of something, not quite pity, but close. "I don't hate him anymore," she admitted. "I just feel sad. For what he could have been if he'd chosen differently." "That's because you're better than him," Darius said simply. "Better than he ever was or could be." That night, alone in their quarters, Lyra and Darius lay tangled together in bed, the world finally quiet. "What do you think happens next?" Lyra asked, tracing patterns on his chest. "For us, I mean." "Everything," Darius said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We build our coalition into something incredible. We have a family, if you want. We travel, explore, live. Whatever you want, Lyra, it's yours." "I just want you," she said simply. "Everything else is bonus." "You have me," he promised. "Forever. In this life and whatever comes after." Lyra closed her eyes, feeling safe and loved and whole. She thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, broken, unwanted, left to die. That girl would never have believed this ending was possible. But that girl had survived. Had fought. Had refused to give up. And now, that girl was a Luna. A mate. A woman who knew her own power and worth. "Thank you," Lyra whispered. "For what?" Darius asked. "For finding me. For saving me. For loving me." "Thank you," Darius countered. "For letting me. For choosing me. For being exactly who you are." And as they drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other and in the safety of the home they'd built together, Lyra knew one thing for certain. She was no longer the Omega they tried to erase. She was Lyra Quinn Stormraven, Prime Omega, Luna, daughter, mate. She was loved fiercely, protected completely, and valued infinitely. And she was finally home. Wow. What a journey, right? I'm literally sitting here with tears in my eyes because Lyra and Darius's story just hit so hard. From that devastating opening with the Wolfsbane to this beautiful, hopeful ending, I hope you felt every single emotion along the way. Now I need to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me. What was your favorite moment? Did you cry? Be honest, I know I did. Would you want to see more stories in this world? Are you Team Darius forever now? And if this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe. I pour my soul into creating these emotional journeys for